everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be breaking down and talking a little bit more about the current state of the US women's national team here on She Scores Bangers. If you don't know already, the US women's national team just concluded their November international window by facing Germany twice, losing their first match against them, which put them on a 3-game losing streak, something that hasn't been done since 1992/93, but they were able to rebound a few days later and grab a 2-1 win over the Germans. If they had lost that game, however, they would have gone in a 4-game losing streak, something that they've never done before, meaning that they just scraped off from writing unwanted history. Despite bouncing back and having a pretty good second half, almost a game of two halves actually, there's still a lot of work to be done and there's still a lot of conversations around what should be improved. VLATKO is currently missing 3 very important key factors that's affecting how his players and how his team perform. Those 3 things are tactical flexibility, communication, as well as proper rotation with his squad. Tactical flexibility, that is a huge thing that has consistently shown to be very weak on Vlatko's end. Not only does it seem that he usually finds issues finding backup plans or backup tactical approaches to how his team should respond when they're going down, he usually also comes out with pre-planned subs. This is not something that we've seen the US team ever struggle with, not from my recent memory at least, that when they're going down or when they're losing or when they concede or when the momentum is going against them, they almost look defeated. And this could be because of multiple reasons. It could be because Vlakto has come out with the wrong starting 11, a consistent storyline. Could simply be that they're being outplayed and outsmarted by the other team. But this is when a good, proper coach comes in. They have a backup plan. They know how to shift things around and adapt to losing. And that takes a lot of tactical flexibility, something that I don't think we've seen quite enough from him yet. It was a very similar story in the first game. The subs came on a little bit too late. He comes out with one plan, one starting 11, wants to stretch it and push it for as much as he can, and kind of almost wishes that it works out. And then when he decides, right, something needs to change, I need to put in some fresh legs, he puts in the exact same subs in the 60th minute, pre-planned subs that don't really shift anything. The subs are not mathematically implanted to shift the momentum. And that is so wrong on so many levels because substitutions need to come in to rejuvenate the team if they're down, or continue on that rhythm, continue on that momentum if they are winning. But to come out with the exact same subs without any kind of idea behind why you're putting those subs simply is not good enough. And one might say, well, some of these players need to get their game time. It's an international window. That's exactly what an international window is for, to get some fresh faces on, to have new chemistry links, new link-ups, new duos, which kind of seeps into another issue is that he simply doesn't rotate. So you're coming out with the exact same starting 11. You're pushing yourself to come out with the exact same subs, and this is not efficient nor helpful for the players. Coming out with the same exact lineup says a lot. It says that maybe you haven't learned from some of these mistakes. It also perhaps sends a message to the players that are on poor form that, you know what, even if you're on poor form, you're still going to be in that starting 11, almost having an undroppable status, a very problematic status in any squad. Same thing goes for the players that do perform good. It also means that even if you come in as a substitute, you do well, you could score, but you're also not going to start the next game. The first bit of rotation that I thought was very much needed, and I was very glad to see it, was Cook being benched on for Sarborn. And I really enjoyed that new link-up. By the way, must I say, Girma, only 10 caps with the senior squad. She is out there carrying that defense line. Honestly, what such a bright talent. The US has got a very good center back for the next at least decade for them. So that's a great positive that happened. However, it's overtaken by a few other negatives, specifically Haran still not being dropped. It boggles my mind that Haran is starting every single game in the midfield. Clearly there's a lot of issues to be worked with in the midfield. It has improved the last few games, I must say, and I think Andy Sullivan has done pretty good. That second game against Germany, I thought she did really good, especially with a bloody nose. But man, does Haran slow things down. She doesn't offer as much creativity. She fails to hold the midfield. She needs to be dropped, and you've got really good options on the bench to put somebody instead of her. I mean, the bench, if you look at it, the entire squad, there's so much talent in there. It's overflowing with talent and potential. And I like the fact that he still calls some of these veterans like Rapinoe, like Alex Morgan, Rex Starburn. Of course, I mean, they deserve their spot in that squad, but I enjoy seeing some of these veterans being mixed with the youngsters because it adds another layer of experience. Maybe he doesn't enjoy having the vets. I know he's spoken on that so much, but you need to have them there, and you need to mix them with these youngsters, which brings up our last factor, which is the component of communication. I know we only see some of these snippets on the camera, on the broadcasting, when there's a hydration break or a foul or whatever, but every time Vlatko is talking to one of his players, it honestly looks like they're just confused. Or even the players themselves, it doesn't seem that there is that chemistry, there's that communication, there's that click almost between all these players. And that's not something that happens with the US national team at all. In fact, I used to enjoy the remedy that they have together. They worked in such an interesting unit. If he's not able to communicate what he wants to the players don't have the best communication between each other, then are they really on the same page? And you really have to be on the same page with your teammates and your coach. When they go down, again, specifically the game against England, Spain, the first game against Germany, they lacked a bit of grit. You can tell that the players don't fear the US team as much as they used to, because that grittiness, that kind of like, I'm roaring at you, isn't there anymore. And this is not to take away anything from Spain, England, or Germany. I mean, tanks, absolute giants in Europe. There's not much. My channel is filled talking about those three nations, but we're also talking about the US here. We're talking about one of the most dominant nations in the world. They've been in that #1 spot for as long as I can remember. They're the reigning World Cup champions. They are a team to be feared, and losing 3 in a row, obviously there's something concerning with the form. Obviously there's something going on that needs to be talked about. When this appointment happened a few years back, specifically pre-pandemic, pre-Olympics, I wasn't too thrilled about it. The transition from NWSL football to international football is just so different and so drastic, and I could understand that he's relatively working with a similar pool of players, but how you handle players, how you're able to show up to 2 games every other month, you could say, and how you're able to keep that chemistry going when the team is not always together is a hard quality. It's not something that a lot of managers have, and it's not something that you see a lot of success when managers go from club football on to international football. And this is not the first time that we've seen an NWSL coach go over to international football and not find his best success. Obviously, a great scenario of that was Mark Parsons. I have a video talking specifically about Mark Parsons and why his appointment from the NWSL to international football was very, very difficult. I'll link that in the description below. Make sure to check it out. It's not the easiest of transitions, and so Vlatko, he's got a very tough job to do. Does he get sacked? I don't think so. I think he's backed up by the federation pretty nicely. But when you see the team start breaking unwanted records like that, uproar from the fans, a lot of the ex-players are coming out and talking. Not something that you see at all. Criticism from ex-players speaks volume, in my opinion. Maybe sacking is a bit of a harsh word, specifically 8 months before the World Cup, but that stubbornness aspect needs to change. Coming out with the same exact starting 11, you have to mix that up. I mean, hell, he was trying to put Rodman in the 93rd minute in that second Germany game. Like, dude, what are you doing? You listen to his post-game interviews, and he feels pretty satisfied with some of these performances, which is also another concerning thing, because he's been pretty complimentary of the midfield, and the midfield has been an area of problems, specifically an area of creativity issues, and he seems to be quite satisfied with it. So that's also another thing. Is he really realizing the issues? Is he able to point out the problems? I don't know. Create that tactical flexibility, have better communication, rotate, and I promise you, I think things would get a lot better for the team. One last thing that I want to mention is that a lot of these players now are out of season. You've only got a handful of players that play in Europe or outside of the US that are in season and pretty much have just started their season. But the rest, the only time they're going to be playing, unless they get like a loan in January or something, are those international friendlies. Staying match fit, I wonder if he can perhaps get some of these camps going, kind of a smaller type of camp for the girls that are not in season. I'm really hoping. There's a lot of speculation that Canada could be in the She Believes Cup. I think that is a great matchup. I love a Canada versus the US. I'd hate to see them go and get another fixture with Iceland or Uzbekistan or a nation that is not going to really threaten them. So it'll be really interesting to see how the federation handles this, how the players are able to recover and hopefully really bounce back. What changes is VLATKO going to make? It's going to be really important. Again, this video has been solely focused on VLATKO. There's a lot we can talk about the players, we can talk about the opposition, we can talk about the game specifically against Germany. Very fun, 2 physical games, but it felt like VLATKO almost deserved his own video for maybe the good or bad reasons. So what are your opinions on this? I really want to hear from the American-based fans. They probably know a little bit more about this than myself. How do you feel about VLATKO? Good feelings, bad feelings? Do we trust him? Do we not trust him? What are the thoughts? Again, as a Canadian, I want Canada to get a fixture with the US and the US to get a fixture with Canada. Preferably a home Canada game. That'd be really great. But anyway, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I also have a very exciting interview video coming out next week, so make sure you keep your eyes out for that. If you want to know what the video is about in a few days, you're gonna have to follow my Twitter at SheScoresBanger, no S at the end. And as always, to stay updated and to continue enjoying the beautiful game, make sure you subscribe to us here on YouTube and follow us on Twitter. I will see you later.